Long before anyone spoke of chemistry, people found a metal that refused to behave like metal. In rare places, it appeared already freed from rock, pooled in small beads, bright and heavy, and it rolled away from the hand as if it had its own will. It did not rust. It did not stay put. For early communities used to stone, bone, and fire, that movement alone felt like a message. More often, the encounter began with a stone. Cinnabar looked like red earth turned into solid colour, and it could be crushed into a vivid powder that marked skin, tools, and burial goods. Then heat changed everything. When cinnabar met flame, the red faded and a strange liquid appeared, collecting as shining drops. A rock became a moving metal. People did not yet ask what it did inside the body. They asked what it meant. The meaning attached itself quickly. A substance that slipped through fingers but stayed heavy suggested power, transformation, and the crossing of boundaries. It travelled by curiosity more than trade, passed from one set of hands to another as a rare proof that nature held secrets. But the first costs appeared quietly. Those who handled the ore, breathed the fumes, or played with the liquid for too long sometimes changed in ways no one could explain. The wonder carried an omen. In the ancient world, Mercury stopped being a strange accident and became a chosen material. People used it in rituals where a metal that flowed like water seemed to cross boundaries between life and death. Cinnabar, crushed into a vivid red powder, turned up in offerings and burial practices. Mercury's shine and movement carried authority. The more unusual it looked, the more powerful it seemed. That belief pushed it into daily life. It also became a tool for appearance. Cinnabar pigments and mercury mixtures entered cosmetics and paints because they clung, covered and kept their colour. People rubbed them on skin, around eyes, and onto lips. In small moments, exposure became routine. The body absorbed what the mind treated as harmless. There was no warning label, no clear cause and effect, only a promise. Brighter colour, cleaner skin, higher status. The risk hid inside the routine. Then medicine claimed mercury outright. Early healers treated it as a substance that could purge the body, kill parasites, or drive out illness by force. The new step was simple and catastrophic. People started swallowing it and applying it as a cure-all. Ointments, powders, and pills spread the idea that a powerful material meant a powerful remedy. Sometimes symptoms changed, enough to look like proof, but relief often came with damage that no one could yet name. Alchemy turned mercury into more than a curiosity. It became a key ingredient in experiments that promised transformation, purification, even perfection. To feed that demand, people went after cinnabar, the main ore that held mercury locked inside. Mining expanded and extraction became more organized. Heat drove mercury out as vapor, then it condensed back into liquid metal. It sounded simple. It was not. The process pulled danger out of the rock along with the product. Once mercury could be produced reliably, it became a traded material instead of a rare prize. It moved in containers, measured by weight, sold for workshops and laboratories. That shift changed who got exposed. Before, it mostly touched the hands of priests, healers, and the wealthy. Now it reached miners, furnace workers, and transporters, people who handled it daily. They breathed fumes and touched contaminated tools. Exposure stopped being occasional. It became a job requirement. The new scale created a new pattern of harm. Miners dug deeper into cinnabar seams. Smelters pushed hotter fires to speed production. More mercury entered markets, and more waste stayed behind at the source. The people closest to extraction paid first, even if they never sought alchemy at all. Their bodies became the testing ground for a material everyone wanted and few understood. A wonder of transformation became an engine of routine poisoning. In imperial China, mercury stopped being just a useful substance and became a promise. Court alchemists linked it to transformation and longevity, and rulers listened. The logic sounded simple. If mercury could change ores into shining metal, it could change a human body away from decay. So recipes multiplied. Pills, powders and elixirs meant for long life. The higher the rank, the stronger the dose. Immortality became a regimen. One emperor, Qin Shi Huang, pursued that promise with obsessive discipline. He funded searches for miraculous medicines and took preparations that contained mercury again and again as prevention against death. It did not act like a gentle tonic. Over time, it damaged the body it was supposed to protect. Confusion, tremors, and collapse followed in the wake of treatments meant to steady the spirit. The cure did not fail quietly. It sped the end it claimed to postpone. That pattern repeated across other courts and noble circles, in China and beyond. When one powerful person seemed to recover briefly, it looked like proof, and the practice spread. But mercury rewarded belief with a delay, not a rescue. Sustained use built harm slowly. Sleep broke down, mood shifted, the mind dulled, and organs failed. The tragedy was structural. Wealth purchased access to mercury, status encouraged endurance, and the pursuit of forever shortened lives. In early modern Europe, a new disease spread fast and terrified people: syphilis. It started with sores, then moved deeper, sometimes ending in blindness, paralysis, or death. Doctors searched for something, anything that seemed to push it back. Mercury stepped into that role. It did not look like a folk remedy anymore. It became medicine with a method folded into the growing authority of trained physicians. Treatments followed a pattern. Mercury rubbed onto the skin, taken by mouth, or breathed in as fumes. Patients stayed on it for days or weeks because a strong reaction got mistaken for proof it worked. Salivation became a goal, not a warning. If the mouth flooded, if gums swelled, if teeth loosened, doctors often read it as the body-clearing poison. The cure was meant to be harsh. That harshness became the measure. But the side effects never stayed subtle. People trembled, grew weak, developed ulcers in the mouth, and slid into confusion. Some improved, many relapsed, and some died from the treatment itself. Still, mercury kept its place, because syphilis offered few alternatives, and because doctors wanted something they could prescribe with confidence. The result was a system that delivered mercury on purpose, again and again, even while harm appeared in plain view. By the 1700s, mercury stopped being only a remedy or a curiosity. It became an industrial ingredient. Hat makers used mercury salts to treat animal fur, so it felt smooth and took dye evenly. The process worked, and it made hats cheaper and more consistent. But it also put mercury where it never belonged, in workshops heated, handled, and breathed in day after day. The danger did not announce itself as a clean injury. It crept in. Workers developed shaking hands that ruined fine stitching. Their speech slurred. They sweated, lost weight, and could not sleep. Mood swings followed: irritability, panic, confusion. Customers and neighbors often treated it as personal weakness or madness. The phrase "mad as a hatter" captured the pattern, even when people missed the cause. Hats were not the only problem. Mercury appeared behind bright mirrors used to form reflective coatings, and in instruments that measured pressure and temperature with reliable precision. Industry valued mercury because it behaved predictably. Human bodies did not. More trades now shared the same slow poisoning, and society started to recognize a new kind of harm: sickness created by work itself, spreading wherever mercury made production easier. By the late 1800s, the same strange behaviors once mocked as weakness or madness started to look like something else. Doctors and researchers tracked patterns across jobs and households, tremors, slurred speech, memory loss, and sudden mood swings that followed exposure, not personality. The focus shifted from blaming the person to studying the body. Nerves, not morals, became the clue. Mercury stopped being just a dangerous material. It became a measurable cause. New tools pushed that change forward. Examinations grew more systematic, and the brain and nervous system became a place that could be tested, compared, and documented. Physicians described a clearer picture of chronic mercury poisoning, especially in workers who handled vapors day after day. The symptoms no longer sounded like vague insanity. They sounded like damage. That language mattered. Once injury replaced stigma, responsibility started to move outward, toward factories, workshops, and the products people touched. Early regulation followed, not all at once, but in steps that showed a new idea taking hold. Employers faced pressure to improve ventilation, reduce exposure, and acknowledge illness as work-related rather than shameful. Public health officials treated mercury as an environmental hazard, not a private failing. The shift did not end suffering overnight, but it changed what society thought it saw. A trembling hand stopped being proof of bad character. It became evidence, and evidence demanded limits. By the mid-20th century, mercury stopped looking like a workplace hazard and started acting like a community-wide threat. Factories released waste into rivers and bays, and the pollution did not stay put. In one Japanese fishing town, Minamata, a chemical plant discharged mercury compounds into the water for years. People relied on seafood every day. Then the first signs appeared: strange numbness, trembling, loss of balance, small at first, then impossible to ignore. The pattern confused doctors because it did not spread like an infection, yet whole households changed at once. Cats staggered and died. Fishermen collapsed. Children developed severe disabilities. Investigators traced it back through what people ate. And the crucial discovery became clear. Mercury built up as it moved through the food chain. Tiny organisms absorbed it, small fish concentrated it, larger fish concentrated it again, and humans received the strongest dose. The water carried the poison, but the fish delivered it. Minamata forced a harsh, new understanding. Pollution could turn into a biological weapon without anyone seeing it. The damage did not end with the person who ate the fish. Pregnant women passed mercury to unborn babies, and infants suffered lifelong harm. Similar industrial disasters followed elsewhere, and each case repeated the same lesson. Mercury in waterways did not dilute into safety. It accumulated, climbed the food chain, and then struck entire communities, not just workers inside a plant. By the late 20th century, the pattern looked familiar. Mercury left factories and products, then returned in people's bodies. Governments responded with rules that targeted everyday sources. Thermometers shifted to digital. Paints and pesticides dropped mercury additives. Power plants faced tighter limits, and waste rules treated mercury like a special threat. Each restriction sounded small. Together, they started to squeeze mercury out of normal life. Industry also changed under pressure. Chlor-alkali plants, once built around mercury cells, converted to safer processes or shut down. Dentists began reducing mercury use as alternatives improved and disposal tightened. Coal burning still released mercury to the air, so regulators pushed scrubbers and cleaner fuels, even when costs sparked political fights. The goal stayed simple. Fewer releases meant fewer fish warnings, fewer poisoned workers, fewer invisible exposures. But mercury refused to vanish on command. Old contaminations sat in river mud, lake bottoms, and soil near mines and factories, waiting to be stirred up by storms, dredging, and time. Then countries attempted something new, a global agreement. In 2013, the Minamata Convention on Mercury committed nations to phase down products, control emissions, and manage waste. Progress followed, yet the past still leaked into the present. By the present day, Mercury no longer looked like a mysterious gift from the Earth. It looked like a pollutant that refused to leave. Old factory sites and river sediments still held it, and storms and dredging sometimes stirred it back into food chains. In wetlands and oceans, microbes still turned it into methyl mercury, and fish still carried it upward to dinner plates. The past stayed active. It kept moving. At the same time, mercury still got used on purpose. In artisanal and small-scale gold mining, liquid mercury still grabbed fine gold. Then heat drove the mercury off as vapor. That simple trick still pulled families into danger. Miners breathed it. It settled onto soil and water. It traveled home on clothes and hands. Unlike the older industries that got regulated and replaced, this work often stayed informal, scattered, and hard to police. Yet the modern world also carried something earlier centuries never had: clear warnings and tools to reduce harm. Many products got redesigned, collection programs captured spills, and hospitals and labs tightened rules around handling and disposal. Some uses remained in narrow niches, managed with training and monitoring instead of guesswork. The change was stark. In Chapter 1, Mercury inspired awe because no one knew the cost. Now the cost got measured, tracked, and still in too many places paid.